Hi, welcome to A Walk Through Comics 2000. This piece, a 5-page, 8 panels per page piece by the French artist Ambre from Lyon. First thing you notice, or at least I notice when looking at this, is how highly textured it is. The really, really viscous grays, probably painted with a mixture of gouache and watercolor and who knows what else. Let's take a look. So in panel 1, we get nothing but this just white space, this white texture. And this like panel 2, this like texture, shadow or something. And in panel 3, we see a hand in a really traditional knocking sort of shape. And we see the shadow of the hand. So, okay, there's a knock, presumably, unless there's like writing with a pebble or a piece of chalk or something very small. Panel 4, that shape recedes. And here's where I got tripped up the first time, but upon the second time I realized what we're seeing. Notice the shift in tone value-wise. Now we're seeing it's really dark. Previous 4 panels were really light. Now we're inside the other side of that door, and we see this bald head leaning over a screen or a book or something, and it turns, presumably, to deal with the knock at the door. That's panel 6. Panel 7, the same figure is lumbering away, and we see just the rest of that screen or book or whatever it's looking at. Panel 8, the end of page 1, it is making its way down to the hall and the presumed doorway. So page 2, we see some pretty traditional locks on a door, at least 2. We see the shadow of our figure, presumably. The figure leans in on panel 2 a little closer, listens in really closely, that symbolizing along with the locks in panel 1, a certain fearfulness. And in panel 4, putting his hand on that door. Panel 5, beginning to unlock. Panel 5. Panel 6, a little more of that. Panel 7, a longer shot, more locks up high being unlocked. And then panel 8, we see that the door is sufficiently unlocked, or at least the top ones are. Page 3, panel 1, he's lowering, I guess he's working on the lower locks now. And now we see the white of the outside world again, and panel 3 just starts to open. We see that door starting to open, and then we see the man reveal himself between the door jamb and the door. And he looks on panel 5 a little bit to his left and then a little bit to his right. And to his right, he sees down the hallway just a bunch of closed doors. That's his own door jamb with the locks on the right of that panel. That's at the end of page 3. Page 4, now he looks down. And down, we see this plant, presumably been left behind for him. And he shuts the door. In panel 3, he sort of closes the door. It's closed now. We're seeing those textures and those squares, those rectangles sort of just telling us, communicating that we're looking at a door on a wall. And then in panel 5, he starts locking it back up again. And whether you read this next panel down or the panel over, either way, he's making his way back into his lair or his room, and he's locking all the locks again. That's the end of page 4. Last page now, page 5. He steps back to his chair, his screen or box or whatever that thing is. He sits back down. We cut away and we look again at that plant. Panel 4, we get a little closer to that plant, and these 2 little sprouts at the bottom of this trunk turn into these 2 figures in panel 6. Kapow! In panel 7, the guy falls over in his chair, presumably dead. And then panel 8 of the final panel of the story, we go back to white. We go back to our original texture. And so I guess I don't exactly know what this means, except maybe don't ignore gifts, or you're going to get what's coming to you if you're a recluse or something like that. But it's a cool story anyway. There's a very specific cause and effect. And but more specifically, the textured world, this really, really dark world, this almost claustrophobic world that the textures are helping create is really, really wonderful. And looking at some of Ambre's other work, we see that texture and shadow is really something he's really been working a lot with. It looks like for the last 10 years or so, he's been working with a writer on history of the Anabaptists, a Christian sect from the 16th century I know almost nothing about except what Wikipedia tells me. But a look at it shows, again, really highly textured artwork, really dark, deep, expressive faces and hands, and lots of shadow and things like that. And a look at his just simple drawings, like of this foot, shows a real love of texture and that kind of thing. So this is really what I'm seeing and getting out of this story, is this dark play of black and white and texture from this printmaker, painter, illustrator out of Lyon.